At my sister's wedding, she mocked my truck and clothes, saying I looked like staff. I stayed silent until the ballroom screens turned on, and she realized whose hotel she had embarrassed me in. Okay, picture this. I pulled my mud-caked pickup truck into the Grand Oak Haven circular drive, still smelling faintly of diesel and wet earth from this morning's vineyard inspection. I was wearing my favorite cashmere sweater, the cream-colored one from the row that feels like a whisper, with charcoal kite trousers that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Quiet luxury, you know. The kind of wealth you have to know how to see. But before I could even shift into park, this contract valet, all stiff in his burgundy uniform, stepped right up. His face twisted into something ugly when he saw my truck. "Ma'am, you can't park this here," he said, waving his clipboard like it was a weapon. "VIP circle is for guests only." I just blinked at him. "I am a guest," I said, a little confused. He gave this sharp, sneering laugh. "Right. Service vehicles use the loading zone around back. You need to move. Now." Heat started crawling up my neck, but before I could even formulate a retort, my sister Cassidy came rushing out of the hotel's gilded doors. Her face was pale, almost greenish under her makeup. She was in her ivory silk rehearsal dinner dress, and her hands were fluttering like trapped birds. "Eloise? Wait." She practically threw herself between me and the valet. But she wasn't defending me. She was blocking me. Her eyes darted frantically towards the terrace, where clusters of wedding guests, champagne flutes in hand, were laughing into the October wind. "Cass." "What?" I started, but her whisper cut me off, sharp as a knife. "Please. Dad. His wife Linda. And the Sterlings are watching from the terrace. Can you just use the service entrance?" Her fingers dug into my forearm, nails piercing through the soft cashmere. "Your truck. Your clothes. They'll think you're staff anyway. Please don't embarrass me today." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I just stood there, frozen, my brain struggling to process what my little sister had just said. My little sister. The one I helped raise after our mother died. The one whose college tuition I paid when Dad refused because she dared to pick theater over business school. And here's the kicker. I own this hotel. The Grand Oak Haven. I bought it 2 years ago. It's the crown jewel of my Moore hospitality group. I could fire that sneering valet with a single phone call. I could cancel this entire wedding with 3 words to Marcus, my general manager. But Cassidy doesn't know that. Nobody in my family knows that. And right then, watching her desperate, panicked face, that secret felt like swallowing shattered glass. "They'll think I'm staff?" I repeated slowly, the words hollow. Cassidy's relief was immediate, and honestly, it was disgusting. "Thank you for understanding. Just stay in the background today, okay? The Sterlings they're important people. Old money. East Coast aristocracy. This wedding is my only chance at a good life." She squeezed my arm once more, then practically fled back inside, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The valet smirked, already turning to greet a Tesla pulling up behind me. My father's phone call from yesterday looped through my head, his voice tight with warning. "If you come to this wedding, stay invisible. The Sterlings are old money. They're Cassidy's only chance at a good life. Don't ruin this with your failures." My failures? The business degree from Stanford? The hospitality empire I built from a single bed and breakfast in Napa? The quiet fortune I made while he was too busy ignoring me to even notice? I wanted to scream. I wanted to march up to that terrace and tell him exactly who owned the ground he was standing on. But that desperate, ugly thing inside me, the part that still, stupidly, craved his approval, kept my feet rooted to the spot. Maybe, just maybe, if I helped make Cassidy's day perfect, he'd finally see me as something other than a disappointment. So I drove around to the service entrance, humiliation burning in my chest like acid reflux. The kitchen was pure chaos. Chef Laurent, this compact Frenchman with a voice like a foghorn, was screaming at a line cook about undercooked potatoes. Servers rushed past, trays laden with food. The air smelled of clarified butter and pure panic. And then I saw the real problem, cases of vintage white wine, sitting on the counter, condensation beating on the glass. They were warm. The commercial ice machine, that beast in the corner, was just dripping pathetically, its motor silent. Chef Laurent spotted me. His eyes scanned my cashmere sweater and tailored trousers, and he made a decision in half a second. You. Agency help. He didn't even wait for an answer, just shoved a crate of wine bottles at me. Take these to the cooler. I should have just left. I should have walked out, gotten in my truck, and let this disaster unfold naturally. Let Cassidy serve warm wine to her precious Sterling family. Let Dad handle the fallout. But I didn't. I set the crate down and grabbed a large metal bucket. Ice. Water. Salt. I worked fast, my hands moving with muscle memory, remembering the chemistry Dad never thought was worth teaching his daughters. The salt lowers the freezing point. The ice bath conducts heat away faster than air. For minutes. That's all it took. I pulled a bottle out and pressed it against my inner wrist. Perfect temperature. Chef Laurent stared at me like I'd just performed open-heart surgery. Where did you learn that? Around, I said, meeting his eyes. You need more help tonight? He tossed me a hotel waistcoat, burgundy with gold buttons. Cover those street clothes. You can work. I buttoned the vest over my cashmere. It fit snugly, transforming me from invisible failure to invisible staff. And something shifted inside me, cold and calculating. If they didn't want me in the light, I'd work in the shadows. I'd make sure Cassidy's wedding was flawless, and maybe then Dad would finally admit I wasn't worthless. I'd prove I belonged, even if I had to do it in someone else's uniform. I moved through the ballroom, champagne flutes balanced on a silver tray, utterly invisible in that burgundy waistcoat. Guests flowed around me like I was furniture. A woman in Chanel brushed past without even glancing at my face. Perfect. Then I spotted Marcus near the bar and my stomach dropped. He's my general manager. The man I hired 18 months ago after poaching him from the Four Seasons. He knows exactly who signs his paychecks. His eyes locked onto mine across the room, and I watched his face cycle through confusion, then recognition, then absolute shock. I pressed a finger to my lips, gave him a quick wink. Marcus's expression smoothed over like he'd pulled on a mask. He gave the tiniest nod, then turned away, redirecting a server toward the kitchen, letting my game continue. Relief flooded through me, warm and steadying. At least someone in this building knew my worth. I circled toward the south corner of the ballroom, where heavy velvet curtains framed a small alcove with Louis XVI chairs. It was meant to be a private seating area for elderly guests who needed rest. But right now, it was occupied by two people who clearly didn't want to be overheard, Beatrice Sterling and her son, Preston. I slowed my approach, letting my footsteps fade into the ambient noise of clinking glasses and string quartet music. They were arguing in harsh whispers, Beatrice's diamond necklace catching the light as she leaned forward. Mother, this is insane. Preston's voice carried an edge of nervous laughter. You can't actually expect to pull this off. Lower your voice, Beatrice snapped, her tone cold enough to freeze water. And yes, I can. I already paid the sound technician $2,000 cash. During the toast, he'll swap out that saccharine photo montage with the video. My hands tightened on the tray. The champagne glasses trembled, a soft chime that made Preston glance towards me, but his eyes slid right past. Just the help. Invisible. What video? Preston asked, almost eagerly. Cassidy at her sorority mixer. Sophomore year. Absolutely plastered. Crying about how nobody really loves her, making a complete fool of herself. Beatrice's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I had someone dig through old social media posts. It's deliciously pathetic. My blood ran cold. Public humiliation? Preston sounded almost impressed now. Mother, that's cruel even for you. It's strategic. Beatrice examined her manicure, her voice flat and businesslike. Make her feel so small, so unworthy of us, that she'll believe signing the prenup is her only way to earn our forgiveness. Broken women are obedient women, Preston. Your father taught me that. She'll sign away the dowry and her grandmother's trust just to make the shame stop. The champagne glasses were shaking harder now. I forced my hand still, but something hot and sharp was building in my chest. This wasn't snobbery. This wasn't even ordinary cruelty. This was predatory. A calculated psychological attack designed to destroy my sister's sense of self so completely that she'd hand over her financial autonomy. Cassidy might be weak and vain and desperate for approval, but she didn't deserve this. Nobody deserved this. Preston shifted in his chair, and I caught the gleam of his Rolex. The one he'd bragged about at the rehearsal dinner last night, claiming it was vintage. I've seen enough counterfeits to spot one from across a room. And if she doesn't sign? Preston asked. Then we escalate. But she will. They always do. Beatrice stood, smoothing her dress. Now, go find your brother and make sure he keeps Cassidy distracted. I need to confirm the technician has the file loaded correctly. They swept past me toward the terrace doors, and I was left standing there with a tray of champagne and a head full of rage. My hands were steady now. The hurt sister in me, the one who wanted Dad's approval badly enough to wear this waistcoat, was gone. The CEO was here instead. Cold. Analytical. Strategic. I couldn't just stop the wedding. If I did that, Cassidy would blame me. She'd believe the Sterling's lies, think I sabotaged her happiness out of jealousy. Dad would agree, and I'd be the villain forever. I needed evidence. Hard, irrefutable proof that would destroy the Sterling's leverage completely. I retreated to a prep station near the kitchen entrance and set down my tray. My brain was already working through the problem like a spreadsheet. I needed two things: the source video file Beatrice planted with the sound technician, and official documentation of their bankruptcy. Court records. Financial statements. Something concrete that even my father couldn't dismiss. If I revealed myself now without proof, the Sterlings would spin it as me being a jealous, vindictive older sister who couldn't stand to see Cassidy succeed. They'd paint me as unstable. Obsessive. I needed them to expose themselves first. Ma'am? Marcus appeared beside me, his voice barely a murmur. I saw you overhear something. Is everything all right? I turned to face him, keeping my expression neutral. Check the Sterling account status. Discreetly. He didn't question it, just pulled out his mobile terminal, fingers moving across the screen with practiced efficiency. After 30 seconds, his face went pale. Hard flags on the credit card, ma'am. The system tried to run the final payment for tonight's reception 3 times. All declined. Insufficient funds. He looked up, his eyes dark with concern. And there are industry rumors of a Chapter 11 filing. Rumors, not proof. I needed the official documents. Pacer bankruptcy records. The sound file. Everything laid out so clearly that even my father couldn't twist the narrative in his head. I glanced toward the restricted service hallway that led to the security office and central server room. The same room where all AV equipment feeds connected. Where the sound technician would have uploaded his files. Stay here, Marcus, I said quietly. I need to get to the secure terminal. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Be careful. I slipped into the hallway, the sounds of the party fading behind me. My heartbeat was steady, purposeful. I wasn't scared. I was focused. The Sterlings wanted to break my sister. They were about to learn what happens when you threaten someone I actually loved. Preston Sterling caught me near the bar during a lull between champagne service rounds. I was balancing an empty tray, trying to stay invisible, when his hand landed on my lower back. Too low. Too familiar. Careful, darling. He leaned in close enough that I smelled scotch and expensive cologne fighting for dominance. His cigar hovered over my tray, ash dropping deliberately onto the polished silver surface. That waistcoat is worth more than your car. His laugh cut through the ambient piano music. Entitled ugly. The kind of sound that's never been told no. I stepped sideways, putting air between us. Excuse me, sir. Sir. He grinned wider, eyes crawling over me in a way that made my skin feel dirty. I like that. So polite. Does Declan know? I ask, risking a glance at the groom across the room. Preston laughed. Declan thinks what Mother tells him to think. He hasn't looked at a bank statement in 5 years. He waved a dismissive hand. Now run along. I walked away fast, dumping the tray at a service station. My hands shook as I wiped ash residue off the silver. The cashmere under this waistcoat suddenly felt suffocating. 20 minutes later, I was refilling champagne flutes at the far end of the ballroom when a man in a Tom Ford suit paused mid-conversation. His eyes narrowed, studying my face with uncomfortable intensity. "Wait," he pointed at me with his champagne glass. "Don't I know you? The Innovation Summit in Austin? You gave that keynote on sustainable luxury hospitality." My blood went cold. I opened my mouth, scrambling for a response that wouldn't blow my cover, but Beatrice Sterling materialized like smoke. Her laugh was bright and sharp as broken glass. She waved a dismissive hand, diamonds catching the light. "She's just the help, darling. You're confusing her with someone who matters." The tech investor frowned, uncertain, but Beatrice was already steering him away. Her voice carried back to me. "These agency workers all look the same in dim lighting, don't they?" I stood there, holding a champagne bottle, invisible again. The woman who presented to Fortune 500 executives, reduced to furniture. Something hot and bitter rose in my throat. I needed to find Dad. I needed him to listen before this wedding became a weapon against Cassidy. I scanned the ballroom and spotted him through the terrace doors, laughing with Mr. Sterling. His face was flushed with bourbon and pride, one hand clapping the older man's shoulder. Now or never. I set down the champagne and walked toward the terrace. My heart hammered against my ribs. I caught Dad's eye as he turned from Mr. Sterling, and I jerked my head toward a service corridor off the main hall. His expression darkened immediately, but he followed. The corridor was narrow, lined with framed black and white photos of the hotel's history, photos I selected personally. Dad closed the distance between us, his breath coming hard through his nose. "Dad, listen to me." I kept my voice low and urgent. "The Sterlings are frauds. They're planning to humiliate Cassidy during the reception, to manipulate her into signing an amended prenup. They're going to play a video." His face turned purple. The color started at his collar and spread upward like spilled wine. "You're poison." The words came out strangled. Pure poison with jealousy. "I'm not jealous, I'm trying to. You can't stand it." His hand shot out, fingers digging into my upper arm through the waistcoat and cashmere. "You can't stand that Cassidy succeeded where you failed. That she found a real man from a real family instead of hiding on some dirt farm, pretending to be better than everyone." The grip hurt. I tried to pull away, but he held tighter. "Dad, please. I have proof. The Sterlings are bankrupt. They're planning to. Get out of my sight." Spit hit my cheek. "Get out before I have security throw you out myself." I forced myself to stay calm. To try one more time. "Dad, I own this hotel. I have evidence they're planning to." "Enough." His roar echoed off the corridor walls. A passing server startled, nearly dropping a tray. Dad's face was inches from mine now, his breath hot and sour. "You're a liar and a disgrace. Pretending to own hotels? Pathetic. This is exactly why your mother would be ashamed of you." His fingers dug deeper into my arm. "I knew I'd have bruises tomorrow. If I see you near Cassidy again tonight, you're dead to me. Dead. Do you understand?" Something inside me went very still. Very quiet. I'd spent 29 years chasing this man's approval. 29 years trying to be smart enough, successful enough, good enough to earn a fraction of the love he poured onto Cassidy. I bought a hotel chain he admired. I built an empire from nothing. And he just called me a liar to my face. The desperate, hungry thing inside me, the part that still believed he might love me someday, died right there in that corridor. I felt it happen. It didn't hurt the way I expected. It felt like setting down a heavy suitcase I'd been carrying my whole life. My father never loved me. He loved the idea of what I might become for him. A trophy daughter. A status symbol. And when I failed to sparkle the right way, I became convenient target practice for his disappointments. "Okay, Dad." My voice came out flat. Empty. "I'll handle this my way." I turned and walked away. His angry breathing faded behind me, but I didn't look back. Not once. The kitchen was organized chaos when I pushed through the swinging doors. Chef Laurent was plating appetizers with violent precision, shouting at a sous chef about garnish placement. He glanced up when I entered, took one look at my face, and went still. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He'd witnessed the whole thing from the kitchen doorway. He saw my father grab me, heard him scream. Chef Laurent wiped his hands on his apron and walked to a prep table near the walk-in cooler. He picked up his master keycard, the one that opened every door in this hotel, and slid it across the stainless steel surface toward me. No words. No questions. Just loyalty. I took the card. My fingers closed around the plastic, warm from his pocket. Thank you. He nodded once and returned to his appetizers. Behind me, the kitchen resumed its organized chaos. I headed toward the restricted hallway that led to the AV and security sector. I knew every inch of this hotel. Every shortcut. Every access point. Every system vulnerability. I designed half of them personally when I acquired the property. Behind me, I felt eyes on my back. I glanced over my shoulder and caught Beatrice Sterling watching from across the ballroom. Her champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. Her eyes narrowed, tracking the waitress who just walked into a restricted area like she owned the place. Which, of course, I did. I walked toward the restricted corridor with my spine straight, my steps deliberate. The security cameras mounted in the corners tracked my movement. I was counting on it. Behind me, Beatrice Sterling's heels clicked against the tile like gunshots. She was following me. Of course she was. Paranoid people always assume everyone else is plotting against them. Probably because that's all they do themselves. Excuse me. Her voice cut through the hallway. Where do you think you're going? I didn't slow down. Chef Laurent's master keycard sat heavy in my pocket, and the door to the AV sector was 20 feet ahead. 15. 10. I said stop. Her screech echoed off the walls. I reached for the card reader, but Beatrice's hand clamped onto my shoulder, nails digging through the waistcoat. Security. She was screaming now, loud enough to shatter crystal. Stop her. This woman is a thief. I saw her take a guest's wallet from the coat check. 2 contract security guards rushed around the corner from the lobby. New hires. I didn't recognize either of them, which meant they definitely didn't recognize me. Perfect. Beatrice pointed at me like I was a cockroach she found in her salad. Search her. She's been lurking around restricted areas all night. Throw her in the security holding room until the police arrive. Keep her away from the guests. My father appeared at the corridor entrance. Our eyes met for 1 second. I watched him process the scene. His daughter being accused of theft by a wedding guest. He could defend me. He could ask questions. He could do literally anything a parent should do. He turned his back and walked away. The guards grabbed my arms. Their grips were firm but not brutal. They were just doing their job, following the hysterical commands of a woman in a designer gown who looked like she belonged here, unlike me in my borrowed waistcoat. Preston Sterling sauntered up, hands in his pockets, that ugly smirk plastered across his face. Trash always reveals itself, doesn't it? Beatrice practically vibrated with triumph. I knew something was wrong with her. The way she kept staring at our family, listening to private conversations. She's probably been casing the hotel all week. Please. I let my voice shake. Let my shoulders curl inward. I didn't take anything. I swear I didn't. One of the guards patted down my pockets. He pulled out Chef Laurent's keycard and my phone. Nothing else. No wallet. Beatrice's face flushed, but she didn't back down. She probably already stashed it somewhere. Just get her out of my sight before she ruins my son's wedding. The guards exchanged a glance. The taller one shrugged. We'll hold her until we can sort this out, ma'am. They walked me down the corridor, past the AV booth where 2 of the Sterling's private bodyguards stood like sentries, past the supply closets, past rooms marked under maintenance. The shorter guard muttered, paint fumes. The other said, use the server maintenance closet. It locks from the outside. They pushed me into a cramped, windowless room that smelled of ozone and dust, just a metal chair wedged between racks of blinking equipment. The door locked with a heavy click. Their footsteps faded down the hallway, along with Beatrice's satisfied laughter. I counted to 10 in the darkness. Then I lifted my head. Mistakes were made. The Sterlings thought they were neutralizing a threat. Instead, they just locked me inside the nerve center of the entire hotel. Right there, humming beside my knee, was the auxiliary server rack. And, crucially, the admin maintenance port. I smiled. I crossed to the wall panel and pulled out my phone. The guards took Chef Lauren's keycard, but they didn't take this. Why would they? It's just a phone to them. To me, it's the master key to everything. I connected the cable to the admin port. My fingers moved fast across the screen, muscle memory from 2 years of personally overseeing every system upgrade and every more hospitality group property. First, the Pacer database. I downloaded the official bankruptcy documents. Sterling Industries LLC, Chapter 11, filing dated 2 weeks ago, asset seizure, creditor list 3 pages long, total debt exceeding $4 million. Second, the hotel's internal payment records. I filtered by today's date, by cash transactions, by amounts over $1,000. There, a $2,000 cash payment logged to Sound Services, special request, with the notation, B. Sterling, personal. Third, the video file itself. I navigated through the presentation server, past the legitimate slideshow Cassidy approved, to the hidden file queued to play during the toast. The file name made my stomach turn, Cassidy_party_fail_final.mp4. I watched 30 seconds. My sister, drunk at some sorority mixer, mascara running, stumbling over her words while college kids laughed in the background. She was crying about something, her words slurred and pathetic. The camera zoomed in on her face at the worst moments. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. I closed the video and opened the hotel's master presentation system. 90 seconds. That's all I needed to build a new slideshow. I worked methodically, dropping in images, the bankruptcy filing, the foreclosure notice on their Hamptons estate, the cash payment receipt with Beatrice's signature, and the piece de resistance. CCTV footage showing Beatrice handing an envelope to the sound tech. I synced the visual feed with the localized audio logs from the booth's directional mic. The result was cinema-quality proof. I cued the slideshow to play on all ballroom screens, overriding any other input. Priority Level 1. No manual cancel option. Then I accessed the security management system and remotely unlocked 2 doors, this server closet and my private office suite on the executive floor. I checked my watch. The toast was scheduled for 8 o'clock. I had 60 minutes to get upstairs to my executive suite, where my emergency gala dress was hanging in the closet, and prepare for the final act. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I saw security take someone toward holding. I typed back, "I'm fine. Don't interfere. Everything is proceeding exactly as planned." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Marcus knew better than to question me when I used that tone. I pocketed my phone and disconnected from the terminal. The closet door clicked open when I pushed it. The hallway was empty. Everyone's in the ballroom, preparing for dinner service, waiting for the touching toast that will never come. I paused at the threshold and looked back at the little room. The Sterlings thought they'd won. They thought they'd neutralized the threat, humiliated the troublemaker, protected their con. I whispered to the empty air, "Now let's see what you're really worth, Beatrice." Then I headed for the service stairs, moving through my own hotel like a ghost, ready to shed this borrowed skin and show them exactly who owned the ground they were standing on. The ballroom glittered like a jewelry box under the chandeliers. 200 guests settled into their seats, champagne flutes catching the light. Cassidy sat at the head table in her ivory gown, radiant and unsuspecting. Declan held her hand. My father stood near the bar, laughing at something Mr. Sterling had just said. Beside him, Linda adjusted her shawl, looking pleased just to be included. Beatrice Sterling glided to the microphone, her emerald dress catching every eye. She tapped the mic twice. The room quieted. "Good evening, everyone." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "What a beautiful celebration of love we are witnessing tonight." She paused, letting the moment stretch. Her eyes found Cassidy, and something cruel flickered there. "And now, a special video montage to celebrate the real Cassidy we all know and love." The lights dimmed. Guests murmured appreciatively, settling back with their champagne. I watched from the mezzanine balcony, my midnight blue silk dress a stark contrast to the waiter's vest I'd worn an hour ago. The fabric pulled around my feet, expensive and heavy. My hair was down now, loose waves framing a face that had been scrubbed clean of kitchen steam and humiliation. Marcus stood behind me, solid as a wall, blocking the stairs. The massive LED screens flickered to life, then went black. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Beatrice's smile faltered. She tapped her manicured nails against the microphone, the sound amplified through the speakers. "Technical difficulties," she said, her voice tight. "Just one moment." I leaned forward, my hands resting on the balcony railing. The PA system crackled, and my voice filled the ballroom, calm and cold as winter. "I'm afraid that video isn't available, Beatrice. But I found some other interesting files you might want to see." Every head swiveled, searching for the source. I stepped into the light spilling from the overhead chandelier. The murmurs swelled. "Who is that? Is that the waitress from earlier?" Beatrice's face drained white. Preston whipped around, his champagne sloshing onto the tablecloth. My father's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The screens lit up with devastating clarity. Slide 1. Pacer bankruptcy documents, stark black and white. Sterling Industries LLC. Chapter 11. Filing dated exactly 2 weeks ago. The filing number sat at the top. Official and damning. I heard the sharp intake of breath from the investors sitting near the front. Slide 2. Foreclosure notice on the Hamptons estate. Assets seized. The bank's logo gleamed in the corner. Impossible to fake. Slide 3. Bank statement showing declined. Insufficient funds on the sterling black card. The one used to pay for tonight's reception. Transaction amount? $62,500. Timestamp, for hours ago. Slide 4. CCTV footage from the AV booth. Beatrice. Caught in perfect high definition. Handing a stack of bills to the sound technician. Thanks to my audio sync, her voice played crystal clear through the speakers. We need to break her spirit so she knows who owns her. The ballroom erupted. Guests pulled out phones. Camera flashes popped like tiny fireworks. I watched the sterling table as their world collapsed in real time. My voice cut through the chaos. "And regarding your final payment for tonight's reception, Mrs. Sterling," I held up my tablet, screen facing the crowd. The decline transaction glowed red. "Your card didn't glitch. It was a hard decline. Insufficient funds. You're bankrupt." Beatrice lunged for the microphone, but hotel security appeared from the shadows, blocking her path. She wheeled on them, voice shrill. "Get out of my way. I'll sue this entire hotel." The ballroom doors crashed open. The valet from this morning, the one who sneered at my truck, rushed in, eyes wild. "Mr. Preston Sterling, the repo company is towing your Ferrari. They say the lease is 3 months overdue." Preston vaulted from his chair, knocking over champagne glasses. His face flushed purple. "That's impossible. I paid that." "With what money?" someone shouted from the investor tables. Laughter, ugly and sharp, rippled through the crowd. Beatrice's composure shattered. She clawed at the security guard, mascara streaming down her face. "You can't do this to us. Do you know who we are? Bankrupt frauds." I said quietly, but the PA system carried every syllable. Declan stood frozen beside Cassidy, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't know," his voice broke. "I swear to God I didn't know." Cassidy stared at the screens, then up at me on the balcony. Recognition dawned slowly, disbelief written across her features. The sister she asked to use the service entrance. The sister she was ashamed of. I let the silence stretch until it ached. For those who don't know me, I'm Eloise Moore. I own Moore Hospitality Group, including this hotel. I bought it 2 years ago. I looked directly at my father. His hand gripped the bar rail, knuckles bone white. "I was asked to use the service entrance today because my truck embarrassed my family. So I served drinks and watched the Sterlings plan to psychologically destroy my sister for money they don't have." Robert tried to speak. His mouth worked, but nothing emerged. Linda, beside him, had gone absolutely still, her eyes darting around the room as if calculating the quickest exit. I turned to Cassidy. Her face was pale, eyes wide and wet. "The wedding can continue if you want, but the Sterlings owe this hotel $62,500. They can't pay." I paused, letting that sink in. That's your choice to make, not mine. Then I faced Beatrice. She'd collapsed against the security guard, her emerald dress crumpled. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises before I file charges for fraud and theft of services. Preston made one last desperate play, grabbing for the microphone on the head table. Marcus moved like water, stepping between him and the equipment. 2 more security guards appeared, their presence quiet but unmistakable. The investors were already leaving, disgust evident in their hurried exits. I heard fragments of conversation floating up. Chapter 11, 2 weeks before a wedding? That video plan was psychotic. I almost invested with them last month. Beatrice's sobs echoed through the ballroom as the security team escorted the Sterling family toward the exit. Preston kept twisting back, trying to catch Declan's eye, but Declan wouldn't look at him. Wouldn't look at anyone. I stayed on the balcony, watching the wreckage below. The screens had gone dark. The chandeliers seemed too bright now, illuminating every shocked face, every whispered conversation, every phone recording this moment for posterity. Cassidy still hadn't moved. She sat at the head table in her beautiful dress, staring at her hands. My father stood alone at the bar, and for the first time in my life, he looked small. I straightened my shoulders. Marcus nodded once, professional and perfect. Together we descended the stairs to handle what came next. The Sterlings fled through the lobby like roaches when the lights flip on. Beatrice clutched her purse to her chest, Preston's face twisted in fury, as guests lifted their phones. Camera flashes popped like firecrackers. Their sobs echoed off the marble floors, pathetic and sharp. Outside, a tow truck hooked Preston's Ferrari, the repo man whistling as he worked. Marcus coordinated with hotel security near the concierge desk, his voice clipped and professional as they filed the police report for theft of services. $62,500. I watched from the mezzanine, a glass of wine in my hand, feeling nothing. The ballroom emptied slowly. Robert Moore stood alone near the head table, staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. He moved toward me, hand extended, his expression caught between shock and calculation. Eloise, I didn't know you owned, if you'd told me you were successful. I walked past him, my shoulder not even brushing his. He was invisible now, the way he'd made me invisible my entire life. The man who told me to use the service entrance got nothing from me. Not my anger, not my forgiveness, just absence. Linda tried to follow, her heels clicking frantically. Eloise, wait, we can talk about this. Think about the family reputation. I kept walking, the terrace doors closing behind me, cutting off her shrill voice. Cassidy sat on the stone steps in her wedding dress, mascara streaking down her face in dark rivers. The silk pooled around her like spilled milk. Declan sat beside her, not touching, just present. His bow tie hung loose around his neck. I didn't know, he whispered again. I swear to God, I'll make this right. I approached carefully, my heels quiet on the stone. I sat on Cassidy's other side, leaving space between us. The garden smelled like jasmine and cut grass. Nobody spoke for a long time. Finally, Cassidy's voice cracked the silence. You own this hotel? Yes. And you used the service entrance because I asked you to? Yes. Her sob was small and broken. I'm so sorry. I pulled a contract from my clutch, the paper crisp and official. The hotel bill is $62,500. I won't pay it. If you two want to be adults, you pay it. Declan looked up, something desperate flickering in his eyes. How? Work. I set the contract between them. I'm offering you both employment contracts. Cassidy, laundry department. Declan, bellhop. Minimum wage, $15 per hour. Double shifts and weekends. It will take about 6 months of grueling work if you live cheaply. Cassidy stared at the paper, then at me. You're serious? Completely. I met her eyes. Or walk away and let your father handle it. Declan took the pen first. His signature was shaky but deliberate. Cassidy watched him. She looked down at her hands, her nails perfectly manicured for a life of leisure she thought she had secured. Then she looked at the rough industrial paper of the contract. She took a breath, picked up the pen, and signed. Her hand trembled, but she didn't stop. 6 months blurred past in fragments. Cassidy sweating in the industrial laundry, her nails broken and raw. Declan hauling luggage up endless flights of stairs, his uniform soaked through. Both of them eating sandwiches on the loading dock curb, laughing at something stupid. Their small apartment with thrift store furniture and no pretense. Just work and rest and the slow, painful freedom from fake status. 1 year later, the garden at the Grand Oak Haven bloomed white and gold. Cassidy wore a simple cotton dress. No veil. No train. She looked radiant in a way her first wedding never captured. Declan wore a suit he bought himself. Tailored, but affordable. Real. Before the ceremony, Cassidy made a choice. Instead of the grand lobby entrance, she walked to the service door. Jimmy, the security guard who saw everything that night, grinned and held it open. Cassidy high-fived him. "Thanks, Jimmy." She walked through the kitchen, where Chef Laurent nodded approvingly, through the ballroom's side door into the garden. Same entrance. Completely different meaning. Not shame now. Humility. Pride in work. Freedom. I watched from the garden. Marcus beside me. "Think they'll make it?" he asked. I smiled. They already did. They chose reality over fantasy. That's the hardest part. Robert and Linda weren't invited. The guest list was small. People who showed up when everything fell apart. The ceremony began, and my voice whispered through my thoughts. Some people think I was cruel. I gave them dignity, not money. I gave them the chance to build something real instead of living a lie. Blood doesn't excuse trespassing. And family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up when you're standing at the service entrance, and they walk through it with you.